Hi, and thanks for looking. I wanted to go ahead and answer some of the questions regarding my 71 Buick GS convertible that I received via eBay, some of the phone calls that I got, some of the messages I got on Facebook Marketplace, Hemming, some of the other places that I just listed the car. In any event, a little bit of history about the car. This car was in our extended family from 1973, I believe. I was not there for that, but anyway, this car is an estate car. It was my father-in-law's car. He passed away. I'm very big into GM A-body muscle cars. Buicks are not my specialty, but I know enough about them to be dangerous. Let's talk a little bit about what makes this different from a Skylark versus a in 1971. In 1970, you had Sloan documentation to document your Buick. In 1972, you had Sloan documentation to document your Buick. In 1971, we didn't have that. All we had to go by to denotate a real GS from a Skylark or Skylark Custom was the VIN number. So for a convertible, the VIN number should start with 43467, and that would indicate a Buick Grand Sport convertible. And of course, this is a real Buick Grand Sport convertible 43467 VIN car. Additionally, it's got its numbers matching 350, its numbers matching turbo 350 transmission, its numbers matching posi rear end, and things like that. So, especially since we know the history of this car, it's about as real as you get. Now, aside from one repaint, I don't know when, I believe sometime in the early 2000s, late 90s, the car was painted. The car actually was from Southern California. They lived in Southern California from the 60s up until the mid 2000s. And this car's basically been, I won't say in storage for the past 5 years, but driven a couple hundred miles a year for the past 5 years. When we got the car, our intention was to keep it forever, but I'm at a garage space. I've got my car sitting outside and this car sideways in the garage to take this nice video for you folks. So, going back to what we were talking about. 43467 VIN did not denotate if it was a 350 GS or a 455 GS. In this case, it's a 350 GS. So, its numbers matching. So, we don't have to worry about, is this a 455 car? No, it's a 350 car. 354 barrel, dual exhaust, all that good stuff. Original ram air hood, air cleaner, everything is correct on this car except for the distributor. The distributor, I had converted to a HEI type distributor because I got tired fiddling with the points, but I do have the original distributor and it is date coded correct to this car, so it is the original distributor to the car. Next, the engine and transmission were rebuilt at about 105,000 miles. The car's at about 115 on it now. So the engine and transmission were rebuilt about 10,000 miles ago and about 20 years. But you do start it up. It doesn't give you any blue smoke on startup, which would be indicative of valve seals drying up or anything like that. Car's always been in a heated garage, so not worried about anything like that. I actually drove the car about 80 miles yesterday. And it performed flawlessly, and it just drove fantastic. It actually drives better than it looks, if that's possible. So now that we went through a little bit about history about the car, let's talk about the features of the car. Now, how many features can a 71 Buick GS have? But let's go about it. Okay, so we've got a white interior, obviously, correct to the trim tag. The nice, cool Buick reproduction floor mats. But aside from the floor mats, everything to this car, including the interior, is original. The armrests are reproductions, I believe, and they're 11-inch. In 1970, I believe they were 16-inch, but these are 11-inch. You've got your comfort grip steering wheel, which was correct for a 71 Buick GS. It was an option. It's funny because those steering wheels are the same from a C3 Corvette, actually, but it was an option and is correct for a 72 Buick GS, of course, the correct Buick center cap there. Additionally, it's a buckets and console car, which is pretty cool because most of these cars they're Buick, so they were bench seat column shift cars. So it's nice to know that you've got buckets and console. And this interior is all original to the car. It's white interior. It cleans up really nice. There's no rips or tears or anything like that. The cushions are still pretty nice and supple. No issues with the interior. It appears that the wood grain at one point was redone. It just looks too good to me. Original AM/FM radio, 8-track player. I can't get a tune out of the radio, and I don't have an 8-track. But of course, factory console, wood grain, your correct wood grain top for your factory console. All the courtesy lights work, headlights, turn signals, all that good stuff works. So let's start going through the car and talking about some of the stuff I would be looking for when I was buying this car. If I was looking to buy this car, what would I be looking for? Well, some of the options that it has that are pretty cool are it's a factory disc brake car, factory power disc brakes, power steering, AM/FM radio, 8-track player, buckets and console are huge in a Buick versus like a Chevelle or something like that where you would more commonly have bucket seats. What other options does it have? Code 75 fire red, white interior, floors, trunk are all original to the car. They're rock solid. Like I said, this car has never been a rusty car or anything like that. It's actually fairly straight. It's a very straight car. Doors close very nice. Let's talk about. Oh yeah, it's also got a tilt wheel. Tilt wheel's kind of nice. No dash in no cracks in the dash pad. Pretty common for these Buicks to crack the dashes and stuff like that. Now, some of the stuff I'd look at if I was to buy it. Okay, so obviously we know it's been repainted. Okay, that's very clear in my description. But when we're looking at things, we want to look at little tiny things that make a lot of sense. These factory rubber door strikers, very important when cars are repainted. They don't install these, which leads me to believe that this is original paint in the jams and stuff. But when we look down here, this is a very, very, very common rust area between the door shell and the door skin. And a lot of times water would go down into this area here between the door shell and the door skin, and this would blister and this would rust here. Now, if any of this was repaired, what you would actually see is, this would be just completely flat because there would be Bondo there, indicative of, this being rusty here. And obviously it's not. And then we look and we see the little spot welds that hold the door shell and the door skin together. So we can infer that this door is completely rust-free. Now you see a little bit of condensation here. That's just because this car was actually in my warehouse. I just brought it to my house garage to take this video. And it's snowing outside. So if you see any water on the ground or anything like that, that's what that's indicative of. Tires are brand new. Obviously the Stage 1 emblem below the GS is not original. I believe my father-in-law added those at some point. I guess he thought he was cool back then. But in any event, those are stick-ons and those will come off. So once we go over there, we'll start looking at some other stuff. We want to look at the back seat. The back seat is also excellent shape. These moldings for the windows, all the windows work the way they should. And then we want to look this area here. This right here is just some rubbing compound. You want to look at this area here. You want to make sure the spot welds are all in here. That would be indicative of this being the original full quarter panel to this car. And this car doesn't have any bubbling or anything like that going on as far as rush repair or anything like that. You'll notice it has the correct double stripe orange stainless rocker moldings. Those are actually very, very hard to get, original and very expensive. Obviously, Buick Rally wheels. remote mirror. Sweet. All right, convertible top. A lot of people had a couple questions about the convertible top. I'm gonna make another video because YouTube is not gonna let me upload this sucker and it's just way too long. So watch the next video.